Going on, card fighters? Today I have Josh. He's doing a deck profile with his Nova Grappler Stride deck. Take it away, Josh.
What's going on, card fighters? Today I got kind of a standard, unstandard Nova Grappler Victor Stride deck. This deck always seems to creep up into the top eights in most tournaments. I think it would be there a lot more often if more people played it. It's kind of an underplayed deck, but very well supported, very, very good.
It's actually pretty cheap, so I
Yeah.
mean, if you want to meta deck right now, it's not bad to pick up.
Yeah, the biggest clash against it is it's always countered by constant meta decks such as Narukami's, things that retire for free like Gear Chronicles and whatnot. So they're always kind of at a disadvantage. With this deck, I went with two starters because of the starter skills kind of so good. At Gen Break 1, when the unit in the same column stands, it stands. And so it's pretty much your best drop in the bag for your rear guard. Since you're going to do a lot of rear guard restanding, it's just constantly going to get you to high numbers. So I choose to run two. It helps out a lot. I just think there's really no other starter to run for this deck. Top 5 searchers is not worth it. So this deck heavily relies on stride. It's kind of all it's got going for it. So you have to stride in order to get all your effects to even start going off. Everything is Gen Break 1 minimum. So you run 4 your stride break. He's amazing. Counterblast 1, stand something at +5. His Gen Break 2 skill is just on swing, stand something at +5. So once you run out of resources, which you probably will with this deck, he just allows you to keep up the pressure. You have to be in him. That sounded bad. You have to be on. Oh, that's not even better. You have to ride this. Damn. So this is the guy you want to be with. All right, I'm done. So here's the other grade 3 I ran. I only run 7 instead of 8 because I run the extra grade 0. But Muscle Shriek is probably the best other drop you can run here because on placement, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, he allows you to target a grade 1 or less rear guard, target your opponent's grade 1 or less rear guard with equal or lesser combat value and discard it. So he allows you to snipe out those bad like Shadow Paladin starters or just, things that your opponent doesn't want you to get. Kind of helps you with the board. And he has a Counterblast 2 skill at Gen Break 1 that'll stand 2 other units and give them 2k on their restand. That's just, again, if you have nothing else going, if you can't keep continuing to stride after the first time or whatever, you kind of fall flat. He's your next best. There's not really anybody else you can run with this deck.
No Cat Butler.
No, there is
Risers.
a build. Yeah, Risers have their own build, but it's not this one. So this is kind of the way to go for this deck. Muscle Shriek's it. You could run 4 and 4 and drop the other Rumbolt starter, but I just like him too much. A staple in pretty much all these Nova Grappler Victor decks is 4 of your Sazondas. He just, every time he stands, he gains 5, and since every stand usually gives 5, he gains 10 every stand. Put him behind Rumbolt, that's constantly another 5k booster. You'll stand him 2 to 3 times a turn. He's going to draw a lot of heat, so you got to be careful when you place him. People are going to go for him, but that's just kind of the key to beating Nova Grappler anyway, is keep their rear guards down, and they can't really do much. Besides him, the other kind of staple most decks run is 3 or 4 of Cool Hank. He's your Gen Break 1 on boost, or with a boost, on swing on Vanguard, Counterblast 1, stand another unit, give it +5. He's going to draw a lot of heat too, but they'll most likely go for Sazana first, but still necessary if you're not striding, you still have the off-column chance to stand somebody. You're looking with this deck to try to average 4+ swings a turn. 4 is kind of weak. You want to hit 5 for 2 turns or so, and you'll pretty much have your opponent weak, just completely wrecked. My 3 grade 2, I go with Street Bouncer. He's just draw mechanic they gave Nova Grapplers a long time ago that you see creep up in almost every other build for them. On placement, you rest him and you rest another unit in the same column. I usually go for the Rumbolt column, since you call him out to the side every time as a Forerunner skill. So you call him, you rest him 2, you draw a card. And then you can just intercept with him. I mean, if you hit a restand, he goes to a 13. It's all right. Obviously, he'll stand. That'll put him to an 18. He also combos with a stand trigger I run. I'll get to that in a little bit. On to grade ones. You run 4 of the PGGs, the Lady Cyclones. Unflipping is very necessary in this deck. Pretty much all your restands cost 1 counterblast, and one of your main strides cost a couple. So all your major combo turns cost 3+. So you need to unflip, and it's just
you don't think protecting your regards is more important with the other PGs?
Your opponents are going to swing at them, but the point is to kind of hit them so hard that their next turns are going to fall flat. You know what I mean? It's attrition. This deck kind of it gained some new strength with some of the stride units it got in Fire's Collection. We'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, you need the unflip to kind of get through everything. Again, it's very stride dependent. So it runs 4 Arshid, the stride fodders. Also, it'll get you Victor when you need him. If all you have is Muscle Shriek, you need to be on Victor. So that's all there is to say about that. I run 3 of Play Doll Mechanic, just the on placement, on Flipper, just one of the great utility cards they've given Nova Grapplers. Should run 4, but I have a couple other grade 3s I had to make room for, or grade 1s I have to make room for. So, again, just with all the heavy cost of everything in the deck, you're going to need to unflip. Between the PGGs, this, and a crit trigger I'll get to in a second, you'll be able to unflip a couple damage a game, which you're going to desperately need. And then I run 3 Final Wrench. Now, I think Final Wrench is a little underestimated by a lot of players, because Final Wrench in the same column with Rumble, your starter, for the first restand, still kind of hits the same numbers that it's the same as having a Sazanda there. So swings at 12. When she restands, she'll usually gain 5, so that'll give her a 12 right then. This will restand, which will make a 17, but then she also gives 4 to another unit, so that makes them a 21. So on restand, they're at 21, which is kind of the same as Sazanda hits a 24, same block value. So it's kind of a poor man's Sazanda, but a lot of times I'll put her here, and it catches people off guard. They won't swing at a grade 1 so often in the front row because they don't necessarily see the threat. The second restand only hits a 30, so you could need another trigger to push that number, but I like her a lot. Good behind the Vanguard because you're going to restand one of your stride units, but again, kind of just a solid unit besides its boosting capability. It's a solid unit in the front row, and that's why I run it. So just so if you don't get all your grade 2s, you still kind of get what you need. On the triggers, I run 5 crit triggers, 4 of which being Red Lightning, a staple in most Nova decks. Red Lightning is just your typical activate, put to soul, unflip a damage. And then the 5th is just the Shining Lady. I run that kind of because I don't have all the triggers I'd like to have for this deck, but it actually works, and so I don't think I'll change it. It's just nice to have 5. Your opponent might keep guessing if they see 2 of these. They might think you have more than you have.
What was the ideal build for the triggers?
I'd rather run 4 of these stands. Let me get to them in just a second. So I run obviously 4 heals. Let's get these out of the way real quick. The Beast Deity Bunnies love me, and I can't stand, or I just love my little rescue rabbit here, my rescue girl. So I run her as well. But I run 3 Subliminal Gray. I don't know where my 4th is. I would want to run 4, but I think I might leave it at 3. Subliminal Gray is just your Soul Blast 1 draw. And I like having him with Street Bouncer. So, you place this, you play Street Bouncer, you tap them both, you draw a card, you Soul Blast 1, you put this back in the deck, you draw a card, and you shuffle your deck. So, it's just a recyclable stand trigger, plus it's a Soul Blast 1 draw. I don't use my soul for anything, and it kind of just, it's just good. It draws me a card and filters back in the deck. There's not really a downside to it. So, I would like to run 4, but I kind of don't have them. And then I run 4 Energy Girl. After she boosts somebody, after Gen Break 1, after boost, she allows to go back into the deck to restand another unit. So she actually combos really good off of the restanding stride unit I'll get to here in a second. And just get you another stand. So it's like you put her down, she restands one of your units, and then she goes back in the deck. So I run 5 triggers that kind of recycle themselves back in. So as the game goes on, as I'm running out of resources here, my counterblast and whatever, I'm upping my chance of hitting stand triggers, which are still going to allow me to hit optimal, restands per turn in order to crush my opponent. On the stride units, Nova's pretty much run 4 of these. They're your Meteor, Kaiser, Vic, Plasma. He's got a hefty cost of 2 Counterblast and a Persona Flip. He loses 1 drive check, but will restand after swing. You pitch 2 and then restand him. Like I said, works really good with the Energy Girl because you pay the cost. If you're off your stride, break, first swing you counterblast 1, restand a unit, and then you pitch your 2, you restand, then you swing her, and then you can restand the same unit after that turn. So it's just she allows you to get multiple attacks off. It's just a fun combo. But this deck's all about multiple attacks, and the more you can beat down your opponent, the better. It's kind of situational when you go into him because you have to have 2 units face up besides the one he flips up, so you have to go to something else first. So, your first stride is usually either Meteor, Kaiser, Vic 10. He's just your on hit +5 and restand. If you don't have your stride break unit that counterblast 1 restands, he's kind of at least your hit on hit pressure. Don't want something else to hit. A lot of times with your stride break, he's kind of unnecessary because you want to pay for the cost to guarantee the skill, and your opponent will let it hit anyway, and the skill will kind of go to waste. But he's still good just depending on what you have. If you don't have the resources to counterblast something, though, it may make them guard the center column hit more. And the last stride unit is Meteor Kaiser Tri-Brute. He just came out in Fighter Collection. Now, he's a really fun unit because his skill is when something restands, you counterblast 1, give it 2k, and then target one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. So usually after, when you pull 1 restand move, you'll have something in front of him and it'll restand. So you restand the unit, you counterblast 1, this unit gains 2k, you pick a unit that would have 9 or lower, which will pretty much be anything on their field in the rear guard position, retire it. Then this unit restands, you counterblast 1, it's now a 7k, and you pick a back row unit to retire. So it kind of gave Nova Grapplers an edge over decks that have superior field, like maybe Royal Paladins or pesky like Shadow Paladin units that maybe they just broke right the turn before and called out two units with their break right skill or something like that. You just kind of want to wipe their field, lower their chances. It's a little hefty cost. You have the unflippers, but it's going to help you in the long run kind of get out those units that people don't want you to retire, those laurels and whatnot. So all around, this unit kind of gave Nova Grapplers an extra edge. Not only am I going to restand a few extra attacks and restand them at really high plus power, but now I'm going to hit those back row units that I couldn't hit earlier, or I can just take care of your rear guards at the same time, still swinging the number of attacks I want to hit your Vanguard. Kind of rounded them out a little bit, and I think this is a really good addition to this deck. You can't run more than 2 just because you're going to run out of resources the way this deck counterblasts. So, like I said, all around it's a good deck. It usually sneaks up. It's always in the top 8. It's just underplayed. That's kind of all I got for it. So, thanks for watching, and like us, follow us, and we'll hopefully get out more videos to you guys. Thank you.